Hey yo, what is up FPG fam? Further here and welcome back to another Aether Gazer video. Today we're going to be talking about the man Marduk himself. We're going to go over my current build for him. I'm going to give you my first impressions. We'll talk about his skills, what he's bringing to the table for you. We're going to cover all of that today, so I do hope you enjoy. I do hope you get some value from it. Now, really quickly to start off this video, I do want to say that I'm pleasantly surprised with Marduk. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think I was going to like him as much as I currently do, just because I thought his playstyle was going to be very slow. I thought he was going to be very sluggish. And that's not what I enjoy. If you know me and been on the channel for any amount of time, you know I tend to lean towards the modifiers that are quick, flashy, up in your face, all over the place, like Oceanus, for example. And Marduk is quite the opposite. But what makes him so much fun and why I really enjoy using him as of now is because you can spam his skills. And one of my most favorite modifiers to use, hold on, the man's talking. I need to find out who his JPVA is because they did such a phenomenal job. That is one of the best voice actors I have heard in a very long time. His JPVA is just insane. Anyways, they were cooking. Anyways, the reason why I like him so much is because he reminds me a lot of Arctic Abyss Poseidon. The way you're able to spam her skills is very reminiscent of how Marduk plays. You are able to spam this man's skills and it just makes his play style so much fun to use. He is a really good modifier. He's actually a lot better than I thought he was going to be. If you invest enough resources into him, he is able to clear the hardest of content, like most modifiers, right? If you put enough resources into him. But I was pleasantly surprised to see how well he's doing and performing, even without really a super optimal team like the other modifiers have. So if Marduk was a modifier that you join the game of Aether Gazer for and you have to have him, then if you put enough resources into him, he's gonna be good. He's gonna pan out for you. But I still advise skipping, right? I still advise skipping him. If he's not a must-have for you, then you don't have to have him. But he is good. But I will say he is heavily reliant on the signature functor, or at least you would want to get it for him, because without it you're having like half a Marduk. Anyways, we'll get more into that here as we go over my current build for him. So let's go ahead and hop over to the man himself. First and foremost, character design. I actually like his original character design, just slightly better than his skin, which you can get for free, by the way, in the event. But I like both. I think the skin is great, but I do like his original design here. I think it looks good. That's first and foremost. Now, talking about Marduk, he is of the Asterism Gen Zone, which I do like the Asterism Gen Zone because there are some benefits that we're going to get from it, and we'll go over that here in just a second as well. He is an energy physical damage dealing modifier, so you have to keep that in mind. So for my current stats for him, I have 64% crit rate. I have 24% crit rate. Let me reverse that. 64% crit damage, which I got lucky with the crit damage, but I do need to fix that crit rate. You can see the other skills right here in terms of the percentages. Moving on to his skills, they are all maxed out. Now, Marduk brings a lot to the table. One thing that I think holds him back, though, is his percentage or damage multipliers. They are not the highest. I think they were pretty conservative when it came to his percentages and his multipliers, because he is doing a lot. I will admit he is bringing a lot to the table. He's kind of all in one type of package. So I think they were conservative with his multipliers because of that reason. I think they thought he was going to be a little too OP, but if they were to raise his modifier percentages just a little bit higher, I think he would be absolutely cooking more than he already is. But anyways, getting over to his normal attack, it's going to do physical damage, and then it's going to call in a drone to do the storm mode to bombard enemies in front up to 12 times. And then bombardment's going to do physical damage as well. And then the base damage buff of skill 1, total firepower, is active. The last strike of the normal attack also summons a drone in storm mode that rolls forward and launches 3 cannon shots, with each shot dealing physical damage up to that percentage that you can see there. And then for the passive, you're going to gain 1 firepower for every 1 energy expended, and then gain 40 firepower when the 3rd strike of the normal attack concludes. Now, when they say conclude, what they're speaking about is when the last attack reloads the gun. You have to reload the gun in order to get the energy, which is not the most efficient thing in the world, but it's fine because you'll get the energy regardless. It's not going to matter. And when I say regardless, like, you're going to build that bar up eventually, but you do need to reload the gun. It's a little inconvenient, but it's not the worst thing in the world. The firepower cap is 300, and then when firepower is full, you can hold down the normal attack button to unleash the hissing rage. That's when you go into that Gatling gun mode. And then when hissing rage, you max out the Rage Serpent's firing rate, so your Gatling gun, and you're going to expend 12 firepower every 0.2 seconds, dealing physical damage. And you can see the percentage right there is pretty beefy. The hissing rage, the Gatling gun, is where you're going to be doing a lot of your damage, and the effects last for 5 seconds, and then no firepower is granted during that time, so you can't build up any more energy while you're doing it, because obviously you're expending it. But I will say that the Gatling gun is not the end all be all. Like, that's where you want to get to eventually. And then when they are, you know, in modified mode, or they're stunned, or they're frozen, whatever the case may be, where they can't really move, that's when you go into the Gatling gun mode, and then you just do a phenomenal amount of damage. But that is the normal attack. As you can see, a lot going on right there in of itself. Now we go over to skill 1. Essentially, you're going to roll, and you're going to go ahead and do 3 shots, each shot dealing physical damage, and you can see the percentage right there of attack. Now, it's going to increase the base damage of all team members skill 1 by 5% for 5 seconds upon each hit. So you have some supporting capabilities right there, which is really nice. And this can stack up to 3 times, which is good as well. Now, each cannon shot also grants 5 energy, so you're going to be getting some energy back. And this is where you're going to start to notice that you get energy back pretty efficiently, so you can do your skills. But you're also going to see a lot of skill reduction cooldown within his kit, and that's what's going to lead to you being able to spam his skills, and which is a really good thing, because all of his skills are very beneficial in one way or another, because they have a lot of CCing capabilities, buffing capabilities. So being able to spam his skills are imperative for Marduk to be as good as he can be, if that makes sense. And the warps really play into that, which we're going to touch on here in just a second. Now, we talked about the energy. Now, if there are cannon shots not fired by the end of the skill cast, each shot not fired reduces the remaining cooldown of the skill by 20%, which is good. And then when energy is full, the skill is replaced with the firepower assist. Now, with the firepower assist, you're going to expend 30 energy and calls in range bombardment to enemies in front. And that's going to deal physical damage equal to that percentage of attack in total. That's where you'll see it highlighted. And you can go ahead and use the skill 1 again. And then you're going to do that firepower assist. And then when you are in the Gatling gun mode and the energy is at max, the firepower assist will cast automatically. So when it's highlighted, you don't have to worry about pressing it. It's going to do it already when you're in the Gatling gun mode. So that's very nice. That's something you don't have to worry about. So that's skill 1. Moving over to skill 2, quick response. Now, essentially what this is good for is stunning the enemies. Of course, it's going to do damage. You can see the percentage right there. But it's going to stun all enemies within range for 4 seconds upon landing a hit. It's going to call the drone in whirlwind mode to scan and bombard the target area. Now, when there are teammates on the field, reduces the enemy's certain type of resistance based on the teammate's damage type and damage amount by 5% for 12 seconds. So this is really good, because depending on the type of allies that you have on your team, it's going to determine when you use the skill what type of resistance shred towards that allies typing, if that makes sense. So for example, if you have Arctic Abyss Poseidon, just as an example, and you do the skill, then the resistance to the ice element is going to be reduced on that said enemy. And then if you have like a water like Leviathan on the other side, same thing. So really nice, because it's going to allow your teammates to be able to do some more damage. Once again, a nice little supporting capability, but as you can see, it's 5%. Once again, I think if these multipliers were a little bit higher, like 10 or 15%, this would be phenomenal. But I think they were, once again, just being conservative because of how nutty this can get out of control if it was too high. But that's just something that I noticed. Now, the same effect can stack up to 2 times. This is very important to note here in just a second in regards to the signature functor and the Aether code that we're going to be taking a look at. Now, when the mod or teammate lands a hit with this drone, reduces the skill cooldown by 0.4 seconds and increases the skill energy cost by 2. So you can see the skill cooldown right there. Now, moving over to skill 3, this is just going to be more CC. So this is going to do physical damage. It's going to pull the enemies in, and it's going to slow them. All phenomenal stuff. So what I like to do with Marduk is I like to do the skill 3 right off the bat. So I go ahead and bring the enemies in and slow them, and then I like to do skill 2 to stun them and then reduce their resistance type for whatever my teammates are, so then we're able to do more damage, and then go ahead and do skill 1, so that way we pop off and we do a lot of damage that way. So that's what I like to do typically, and then rotate that, and it seems to be very efficient. and the enemies are really stuck in place. They can't do a whole lot if you get that rotation going pretty nicely. And then it's gonna call the drone in hurricane mode to drop up to 6 traps with slow debuffs, and that's where you see those on the ground. And the traps are also gonna deal physical damage. And then slowing the enemies hit for 2 seconds. Now the slowing effect can stack and will increase slightly with each stack, which is very important. And then when the mod or teammate lands a hit with this drone, reduces the skill cooldown by 0.4 seconds. Once again, just like skill 2, skill 3 has a skill cooldown reduction and then increases skill energy cost by 2. So that is skill 3, a very nice one. I do like it. And as you can see why his kit is very synergistic, because there's a lot of CC, there's a lot of supporting capabilities built within it, and then a bit of increasing damage for Marduk himself. Now going over to the ultimate, this is a really good ultimate. It's going to call in several drones in torrent mode to bombard the target area up to 12 times, with each bombardment dealing physical damage equal to 187.2% attack and inflicting armor break on enemies hit, reducing their defense by 25% for 10 seconds. That's pretty good, right? 25% is not bad, and that's just going to allow you to do more damage, and then grants a 6% ultimate skill charge when the mod or teammate successfully expends energy. Effects can trigger once every 2 seconds. Not too bad. And then we do have the ultimate skill chain if you have Kingu. This is going to reduce their damage, or excuse me, it's going to reduce their defense like we spoke about with the armor break, but it's also going to give you damage reduction as well. So and then all members of the team, they're going to gain the burst threshold equal to the mod's pressured tank stacks for Kingu limit for 10 seconds when the mod lands a hit. So there's a lot of benefits for these ultimate skill chain with Kingu. That's going to be one of his optimal teams, is obviously having the new A rank modifier with him that has the ultimate skill chain. Now the dodge is good because it's going to have damage reduction by 20%, and then it further reduces the damage taken by 0.1% for every 1 firepower you own. So that's really good damage reduction. Paired with Leviathan, the amount of damage reduction that you have with Marduk, you're not going to die because you're getting healing and damage reduction with Leviathan. You're not going to die. You're tanky as all get out. And then the Asterism Gen Zone buff is really nice. Leviathan's a good partner. But what I wish Marduk had was the 0 time. Because with the 0 time, you can then set up so many more things, and then it would just be more beneficial, him playing more into that supportive role. The 0 time would have been really nice for him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have it. But you could pair him with like Hera, who could proc it herself. So it's unfortunate. I would have preferred the 0 time, but you know, it is what it is. We just have to take it for what we have. And so those are his skills. I think he brings so much to the table, right? We talked about stun, armor break, pulling enemies in, slowing them down, damage reduction. Like, he's doing it all. If you really think about it and you take it all into account, buffing the teammates, he is doing it all built within his kit. He offers a lot of utility, and that's what makes him so good. But once again, the conservative multipliers and him not really knowing if he wants to be a support or a damage dealer or, you know, a sub DPS / support is really how I would classify Marduk. He would be really good in that AI slot, in my opinion. I mean, you could main him, which I do, and he does damage and he gets the job done, but he's probably best suited in that AI slot with all those utilities, and then you just main a damage dealer and let them run crazy and let Marduk benefit, you know, buffing them up. So that's just my 2 cents when it comes to his skills. Now the access key, I have it leveled up, and you can see I do have the signature functor. Now the first part of the gameplay where I cleared, I believe it was the has his own cleaning, was without the signature functor, and then I have another run with the signature functor. The signature functor is just very beneficial because this is what makes him a very good supporting type of modifier, and this is just going to be so beneficial for your teammates. Without this functor, I feel like you have a half a Marduk because this one just does too many things. There's too many benefits in it. And it's just offering way too much. As you can see, like, look how big this is. Look how many things that it's doing. It's just doing way too much. So without the signature functor, Marduk feels like he's missing half of his kit, or half of the benefits that he's able to do. I would say he's one of the most reliant on their signature functors, next to like Hera and, I don't know, Eshu, right? it's kind of one of those things. It's a little unfortunate, but what I will say is that he has a semi decent one. Like if you have some transcend in this one right here, which is I believe one that you can get in the shop, and then I think it's also the battle pass one. It's not terrible for him because when you hit on enemy in abnormal state, it's going to deal 15% more non-dot damage, which is good because he does have stun and he's able to proc that against the enemy. So you can take advantage of this fully. And then once again, if you have some transcend in here, that actually can lead to some, you know, decent numbers for him. So this is not a bad one to go ahead and put on him, but I mean, you take a look at that in comparison to this one, it's not even close. So what does this one do exactly? Well, essentially when a teammate casts a skill or an ultimate skill, a drone that corresponds to either his second skill or his third skill is summoned, and it's going to deal corresponding amount of physical damage. So it allows him to do even more damage, but allows your teammates to do more damage. It's gonna the additional attack of all members of the team by 180 up to 1080 for 18 seconds, which is a long time. The two type of drones summoned by each teammate has a cooldown of 20 seconds respectively, and from my understanding it's going to be like a random one of these, except if you have a specific Aether code. But for this one, it's going to reduce energy cost by 10% when a teammate summons the drone, and it's also going to increase base damage of all team members skill 2 by 5%, and that can stack up to 2 times. The second one's going to gain energy 10% more quickly, and it's also going to increase base damage of all team members skill 3. So that's really good. Now this one is really nice as well because it's going to reduce the enemy's certain type of resistance based on said teammates damage. So what we talked about, this is already built into skill 2, but remember with skill 2 you can stack this up to 2 times, right? So that's where the signature functor comes into play, because then you can stack up the whirlwind mode 2 times instead of it just being 1. So instead of 5%, it's going to be 10%, which is incredible. And then hurricane mode, this is within his skill 3, and once again this is going to be the crit rate though increases by 5% for 12 seconds. And then entering 0 time while this effective is active will refresh the effect duration and shares the crit rate boost with other teammates. This is where him having 0 time himself would have been very, very beneficial, but without it you would have to run somebody like Hera that can, you know, proc it just normally, right? So these two are really good, but I mean all of them are really good, right? And they're all beneficial in their own way, but you can see why his signature functor is almost a must for him, because there's so many supporting capabilities that you can have for the team, makes him even a better supporting character. Moving on from there, we're going to go ahead and talk about the sigils now, and of course these are the ones that I went with. It's just the recommended ones with the new energy sigil right here, and you can see what it does, which is good for him. And then the skill effects, I actually got pretty lucky. 7, 3, and 8. We'll try and min-max those. I say that all the time. We'll try and min-max those. Moving over to his warp. So this is where you can obviously do what you want to do, but I think going with the skill cooldowns is going to be paramount, because like I said, you can spam his skills, and then getting them on an even greater cooldown is going to be, you know, a much more efficient playstyle, I believe, for Marduk in particular. So as you can see, cooldown of skill 2, range, and I have to work on these are just base. I need to build these up a little more. Range damage, of course, and then I did the level up on the skills as well, so he can be able to do more damage and have better numbers on those. But you can see I'm going for skill up and skill damage up and skill cooldowns on just about everything. I went with the armor break to get even more armor break, and then I went with the abnormal status as well because we could do the stun, so we can take advantage of that, right? So those are the warps that I'm going with. I'll go ahead and build these up a little bit more and try them out. But I think those are, you know, pretty good ones, right? But of course you can do whatever you want with your Marduk. And then for the Aether codes, the Aether codes are interesting. So right now I'm going with the blue one, and the reason being is because it plays into the signature functor. And as you can tell right here, once activated, the drone called in by quick response, which is the skill 2, comes in whirlwind mode instead of the Raphael mode. Now my understanding, and you can correct me in the comments down below, guys, my understanding is that with this one in particular, you're always going to get whirlwind mode. You're never going to get the Raphael mode, which means you can take full advantage of stacking that skill twice. You will always be able to stack it twice. And then same with the last one here for skill 3, it's always going to be hurricane mode instead of the Burresque mode. So it's not going to be random. You're always going to get those, so you can always stack those 2 times. That's my understanding. Once again, if I'm incorrect about that, let me know in the comments down below. But for me, it would make sense on that being the case. So that's why I'm going with the blue, because I have the signature functor and I want to take advantage of that. And then for the first one, when War of the Gods, which is his ultimate end, is cast, all members of the team gain a 10% range damage boost for 7 seconds. Just a little more supporting capabilities, right? For the bottom one, I really do like the bottom one as well. I think it plays into his Gatling mode, so you can make that as strong as possible, and his skill 1. So I do like the bottom one. And then for the top one here, this is going to be you know, a damaging one also, and it's going to be for, you know, playing into his ultimate, the firepower mode, just in general doing more damage. So I like them all, but I prefer right now the blue and taking advantage of the skill 2 and skill 3. So those are his Aether codes, and that's just Marduk in a nutshell. Everything that he's bringing to the table, and I think I think he's far better than I thought he was going to be. I'm actually pleasantly surprised with Marduk. I enjoy him a lot more than I thought I was going to. But anyways, guys, this video has been way too long as is. I've been waffling about Marduk, and I wasn't expecting to. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about him. Let me know your thoughts and opinions, and I do hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Remember to stand out, be different, have fun, go further beyond in everything that you do. My name is Cody. You call me further. I'll see you all next one. Bye, guys.